Hey everyone, my name is Tara Antonellis. Welcome to Seeking Beyond. I'm going to be doing the forecast of February 27th through March 2nd. So we have Mars squaring Jupiter on the 27th on Tuesday, and it's in the decan of Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the decan of Mercury. What this energy is going to be focusing us on is working on something to be satisfied with. We are merging abundance. It's a benefic planet, Jupiter. It's also expansive. So when you're dealing with a square, which is of the nature of Mars, can have a difficult, possibly challenging, or emphasized type of energy behind it. It doesn't always necessarily mean negative. There's just some sort of friction that is involved. And when we are dealing with Jupiter, this is something that has to do with either a philosophical type of background, something that is fun and pleasurable. And also with Mars being involved, there's energy, and being the god of war, it has an aggression type of feel to it as well. So there can be a type of overexertion that could be being sensed, and a feeling of wanting to seek more enjoyment and things that bring us harmony within ourselves. You might find yourself seeking fun and wanting to go out and play, finding new ways and ideas to execute problem solving, dealing with the mercurial deacon, working smarter, not harder. And this gives a mental courage, an emphasis on being adventurous. Putting your money where your mouth is, there's a type of energy that's shit or get off the pot. And you want to be careful not to put your foot in your mouth, because tensions can be high with this square with Mars. If you notice an easier time to be set off, make sure to keep yourself like out of a position of being overactive. This can have us being short fused. So be leery of that and conscious of it. If you find yourself overreacting, try to stop as soon as you notice and ground yourself. You might find that this energy is affecting you in a positive way that is having you focus on dreams and desires, and having some sort of energy that just elevates you and really ignites whatever you're focusing on. And it's a synergy that can be happening when you have this um, Mars being involved with Jupiter. It can play out in a chivalristic type of way, and feeling like you can also express yourself physically and sexually, but also be aware this can mark a tendency of um, unfortunate circumstances. So if you find yourself in a position that can not be safe, make sure to take extra precautions, because this energy has an aggressive tone to it. And so if there's any, you know, advances that don't feel comfortable, make sure to not proceed further, and get out sooner than later, because yeah, they're Mars ruling, well, planets don't actually rule anything. It's a emphasis on energy being expressed. There's willpower that comes into play. So let me not get on a tangent there and stay focused. But when you have this aggressive sexual energy being in a malefic aspect, um, and then Jupiter expanding that, all planets have a positive and a shadow. So the possibilities can go either way. And that's where it matters how it dictates in your natal birth chart how these planets are aspecting your planets um, in your chart. So this does have a possibility of being in an aggressive sexual tension. So if anything that is surfacing in that criteria highlights, make note of it and do what you have to do to be safe. All right. Don't want to take away from the fact that this can also be a huge advancement time for executing creative endeavors that you have. Mars, if it's being positively expressed in your chart, can really end up expressing itself in a just grandiose go get 'em type of energy where finally you have the courage, the ambition, the energy to make shit happen. All right. On the 28th, we have a triple conjunction that is taking place that will be felt. We are working with the Mercury conjoining Saturn and Pisces, but also the Sun conjoining Saturn in Pisces, Mercury conjoining the Saturn in Pisces. So all of these planets are getting triggered. We're having kazimis and then combustions. We will start with Mercury. With Mercury being involved and Saturn, this can bring forth opportunities to practice and better emotional maturity. It's not fun when Saturn can be in a position of um, like gets a bad rap. So I don't want to go with cliche type of keywords here, but Saturn can be a planet that creates delay, but when there's a perseverance energy behind this, and when you do the work and time is involved and there is, a lot of effort put forth in a certain subject or idea that you're facilitating and come to your fruition in a drawn out way, and it can really benefit in the long run. And it's overcoming. So when you have when you have emotions that surface and you do the shadow work, you get to see the redemption and the integration of that happening. And it's really rewarding. That is Saturn's energy. It's reward or consequence. What have you been doing? So this can play out in a way that it's hard and it feels difficult. And if you're seeing patterns being repeated, this is a focus point that will surface that shows you where the work needs to be done. And with it being involved with Mercury, it has a undertone of communication and a way of articulating ourselves and our ourselves. This is a good time for pausing for reflection, knowing how far you've come, and also seeing where you can do more work. It's contemplation. You can have the tendency to feel sorry for yourself during this time, and that's because it's highlighting ways that we need to grow. So And it doesn't always come in a way of black and white. It could be a very a deep way of contraction that ultimately is supposed to be elevating us if we are able to flow with the circumstances that we receive and are able to take something away from it because Saturn is the planet of lessons. There can be a time of misunderstandings and forgetfulness during this with the mind. And I would make sure to take extra precautions with traveling. Mercury is the messenger god, and it deals with travel. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's delays and cancellations of trips and not being able to do certain things that we were planning on. There's like a rerouting that's happening figuratively and physically. There's a craving for serenity and mm, focus. That's going to be a big key factor here. It needs to be disciplined and reserved. And be careful if you find yourself worrying a lot right now. There is a depression that can take place with these placements, and you can find yourself sinking. If that starts to happen, remember that these are opportunities to to elevate oneself. So don't get grabbed by the energy and try as hard as you can to keep that sovereignty and knowing that there is ultimately a reason for the rerouting. It Saturn is a gateway, a threshold. It's something that holds us back so that it can spring us forward. And it can have a whiny feel. It's melancholic. It's a malefic planet. And we might find that these are issues related specifically to relationships. We are dealing with serious conversations, and there may be a sense of romantic pessimism, somber thoughts, and really just picking everything apart. But when this synodic cycle that is taking place with both Mercury and Saturn, there's a dying and rebirthing that's happening when it becomes in the heart of the sun. And so the best advice I could give is to release any resistance. And where there are areas of halting or redirection, flow with it. This is for a purpose, and you can take something away from this in the long run. Saturn has to do with him, and it's the father time. If you think about Leonardo da Vinci's painting, Saturn, he's biting the head off of his son. This is a killer of innocence. It's the eater of children. But you can take this in a way and progress from it. Ultimately, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And you'll notice with people with strong Saturn placements in their chart, that is a theme of their life. I personally know this. I'm a Saturn first house. conjunct my ascendant rising, so can tell from personal experience. It's a energy of wanting to develop through the difficulties. It's the diamond energy being put under pressure and shining your light. And so when you have the sun conjoining Saturn now as well, the reset of the synodic cycle that is taking place creates something that's being highlighted in the theme of our life and the trajectory of our blueprint. And there is going to be a whole new Saturn that is being born. So this is really showing something that's been taking place for a while, something that has history behind it, and changing the next chapter of our lives. You may also find that this does have to do with the patriarchy and Saturn being like the father. You can find yourself reminiscing on leaders and father figures in like, your life, and wounds where those those issues might pertain to might be highlighted as well. It has an undertone of hardness. You might notice you're lacking confidence in this at this time, and a sense of possibly being taken advantage of. And there's a great focus on duty and work. There is a crumbling away of rigid egoic structures. And you might also notice that you have a fear of expressing yourself during this time. There's a possibility of a dogmatic outlook, and you're really going to be combating pessimism. And that's something that you should, for this transit, be conscious of. And any unmet needs can surface at this time. And you might find yourself trying to find materialistic substitutes for love. Not a good time for shopping for therapy. No retail therapy. And you can feel lonely and isolated and just like the black sheep. So if you notice these themes taking place, really, really be open with yourself and try to find the root of where this energy is trying to direct you towards. It could absolutely not be anything of significance, and that's kind of another theme of Saturn is insignificance. And there is lessons behind when we feel insignificant. So deep dive in those areas if you find yourself being grabbed. All right, on the first, we have the sun sextiling Jupiter. This is a positive aspect. And it comes in a really good time with all this heaviness with Saturn and the sun's reset. Comes as a pick-me-up. It's warm and sunny, and it has a zesty enthusiasm, and it can just overall bring a joy back into life. And you might find yourself being really generous that day, and it's expansive. It's laughing with your best friend and feeling excited about the world around you, and happy-go-lucky. And we need this with that Saturn Cazimi that's taking place. And then also on the first, we have Venus sextiling Chiron, the wounded healer, the medicine man. And so we have a value and love and comfort and joyous creative energy that's harmonizing with scars and wounds and deep lessons that we've had to learn through contraction and finding a way to express that. And you might be doing that through art. It's a wonderful form of articulating Chiron sextile Venus. And you might notice that this is really focusing on relationships per se, even with like friendships. It's Venus has to do with that tender, motherly, sisterly energy. And so it's dealing with the heart. And yeah, so there's gonna be an elevation that's taking place because you're integrating those wounds that had purpose and processing through that in a harmonious way. And it's it's being able to move forward from seeing what you did wrong or seeing what they did wrong, seeing deeper and having a different perspective. It's finding resolve, and your self-worth can be ignited at this time in a positive way. And the work that you've been doing, the shadow work, it it creates comfort in spite of the hardship that was taking place. And so as these energies form, you'll find that through that trans that that stepping stone, that bridge that Saturn creates for us, that going to pull a few cards for us for the week ahead, we're able to where are progress. We, what we should focus on, and what we are progressing towards. All right, where are we? I got the Justice card here. And when we are talking about justice, we are speaking on the scales. Saturn is exalted in Libra. I find it interesting that both Jupiter and Saturn can be connected to Lady Justice. Where are we? We're finding the truth, and we're able to sit with consequence and be able to see on the other side of it. It's finding justice within ourselves and the people around us. What should we focus on? I got the Ace of Wands. And what the Ace of Wands speaks to is the beginning of creating creative endeavors. What is stewing inside of you right now? What wants to express itself in whatever form that it's speaking to? It's wanting to plant a seed of something that we are passionate about and excites us. When we are looking to what is next, we have the moon. The moon illuminates things that are hidden in the shadows. It pulls from the well within our soul. It's the solar plexus that speaks to our desires and passions and dreams and ambitions. It sheds insight to the shadow side. What we can look forward to is finding an emotional maturity that allows us freedom, being able to celebrate the power in the divine feminine. It's a beautiful merging of action taking place in the internal self. I hope that you took value from this reading and this interpretation today. Thank you so much.